Today, the drive to make money. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to the latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. And today I'm joined by motivational speaker, famous author, Robert G. Allen. Hi, Robert.
Martin, so good to meet you. This was the first time we've met before, and I really am impressed with what you told me about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's great to have you on the show. And you've got all of these best-selling books. You're very well known as a motivational speaker, and it's all around the concept of it is possible to make money, it's possible to get rich. Now, before we get into the detail about how that might be possible, I'm interested into this seems to be a very, very hot button for many people. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I see people driving nicer cars and living in better houses and sending our kids to better universities and schooling. And they say, I'd like to have some of that too. It's everywhere you look. You go online, since COVID has driven us online and we are being promoted to the million other options. We say to ourselves, how can I do that? Well, the problem is there are two kinds of ways of thinking. Not only in Australia, but here in America, there are employees and there are entrepreneurs. And employees are usually very security oriented. They can still want to be rich, but they can't get out of their comfort zones. And therefore they won't step out into the opportunity zones, what I call it. And they're stuck in there and they're afraid. And so they see other people and they wish that they could have that, but they can't seem to get themselves across the line. The other group of people is about 1 in 7 here in America. 1 in 7 is an entrepreneur. And they don't want to be an employee. That's the last thing they want. They want to be financially free. So their principle is freedom. That's what they want, freedom. And therefore they want to make, as the way I say it, they want to make big, fast money. And employees, they want to make small, slow money. They want to make a little bit of money over long periods of time and then have some of that money invested in the stock market and maybe take them to financial retirement. And because of their focus on safety and security, they said, give me a job and make sure it's safe and secure, and let me work for a long period of time, and I'll take a little bit of money and I'll invest it, right? So I'll be financially free in 50 years. Whereas entrepreneurs, they want to make big, fast money. And therefore you have to learn how to sell something. As an employee, they're selling their time, and they say, "Pay me X amount of dollars per month, and I'll be okay." And then an entrepreneur, they realize that they've got to sell something if they want to be financially free. They got to sell stocks. They got to sell a product or a business. They got to sell something on the internet. They got to buy and sell real estate. This is called active investing. And usually the employees, they're in passive investing. Take a little bit of money, put it into the stock market, at the S&P 500, let the money grow over long periods of time. And those two groups of people are very different. And most people are employee-minded. And so when they look at us entrepreneurs, they think we're crazy to take so much risks and to be willing to have such big dreams. And they think we're nuts to think that we can make $200,000, $500,000, $1 million in a short period of time. And yet this is what we do, and you can see it all over the place. And COVID-19 has driven us into our homes, where we now have made the decision: do I want to continue to work as an employee in my home, or do I want to become an entrepreneur in my home? Can I make a fortune from my kitchen table? And of course, the answer is yes. We've got thousands, millions of stories of people who started in their own home. So why can't you do it? It kind of depends on your mindset. If you're an employee-oriented person, it's hard for you to get outside that comfort zone of yours. And I would say, then, okay, stay there. 50 years from now, we'll compare notes.
So it's interesting. So there is a philosophical difference between the two behaviors you're talking about. Can you switch from being one to the other, or is effectively the barriers of switching just so high that people don't tend to do it?
It is a very good question. Sometimes just knowing what I just taught you and making a decision, like, do I really want to be financially free? And do I want to do it more quickly? I have to be an entrepreneur, or I have to be an employee with a side hustle, with something that I sell on the side. And yes, you can make the switch, but it's difficult, and you have to make the decision. If you want to be financially free, got to sell something. And most people who are employees, they hate the thought of selling something, because they don't like salespeople and they don't like people selling stuff, and they feel I don't want to be part of that group that's dirty, grubby, selly people. And you don't have to be that way. That's just a caricature of the way people look at salespeople or entrepreneurs. You don't have to be that way. You can be who you are. You can find customers all over the place who will resonate with the way you are.
And of course, commerce has been all the way through history. That is how the economy has worked and is required to work. So there are always buyers and sellers. There are always people, with things to sell and people who want to buy them. That is the nature of the way our world works. So I guess it's a question of which side of the fence do you want to be on?
Exactly. So I think your audience is more entrepreneurial, or maybe they are passive investors into the stock market, things like that. I'm an active investor. Passive investing means I have to put my money where any terrorist in the world can destroy my wealth. If the stock market goes down, if there's an atomic bomb goes off anywhere in the world, the stock market will crash. It'll come back. So while it's going down, keep buying. But I don't like to give my money to risk my money in something that has a catastrophic event, can destroy it. Now, COVID is a catastrophic event. And in active investments such as real estate, there are going to be people who will lose fortunes in this year, 2020. However, as a real estate investor, you know that 1 or 2% of the people who are selling property right now are desperate to sell. And for whatever reason, and more than likely, COVID-19 has knocked them out. And they're sick of it. They're tired of it, of their monthly payment. I've been able to make their monthly payments, and their credit's going to hell. And they go, get me out of this thing. And so today is the time for an active investor to be buying real estate, to be looking for the best options. When was the last opportunity like this? It was 2008, 2009, 2010. And if you could go back and buy property at the same price it was back then, wouldn't you buy a bunch of it? Well, 10 years from now, mark my words, you'll ask somebody, when do you think you would have liked to buy a lot of real estate? And they'll say 2020. That was the time. But most people won't buy it. It's because they're afraid. And fear is expensive. You're a philosopher. So you realize that fear has an enormous cost. If you have a thought of fear, it stops you from taking action. And therefore, the opportunity that you could have taken advantage of is gone. In other words, that opportunity is dead to you. Therefore, fear costs money. Every single thought is expensive because it stops you from taking action. Now, it could also stop you from making a mistake. That's true. But if you're careful, and especially at a time like this, you'll find an opportunity that is so obvious to you. You'll go, well, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. I'll buy that one because the price is so good, and I could rent it out for much more than my monthly payment would be. That's a no-brainer. So now is a no-brainer time. It wasn't like this in 2019. Remember in 2019? It was, everybody was, doing well, but there were no opportunities like this. There were no bargains like this. So we wait for times like this, and it'll be over next year. 2021, it'll be over.
Right. So your view is that this is now the time. Now, of course, in Australia, prices really, well, they're moving down a little, but have hardly moved at all. And so there's a really interesting bifurcation in the property sector between those who think that there's more falls ahead. We haven't got to that point of the bottom of the cycle. Others saying, no, this is the point, and it's going to take off again.
I'm happy to hear that the prices have been fairly stable. They didn't drop like they did in 2008, 9, especially in America.
Yeah.
However, it's obvious that there are people who are in financial difficulty now because of this COVID-19. And they will be presenting themselves over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
And people will be giving up, and they'll say, I don't want this property anymore. Take it off my hands. And so do it.
And it's interesting because I study households quite deeply through my surveys, and we measure the degree of financial stress in households, and it's never been higher than it is now in Australia. And It's concentrated at the moment in those property investors who bought, frankly, at the height of the market. Now they're finding their rents are actually getting squeezed. And the value of their properties are going down, and so they're saying, "Oh, now maybe it is the time to exit."
Yeah. So they bought at the wrong time, and they were speculators.
Yep.
So you never are a speculator. So whatever the market value is, you never buy above that. You never pay retail. You only pay wholesale. And at a time like this, the wholesale prices are lower. So just be careful. Be smart. Most people who lose money now are because they were expecting this to go on forever.
Yeah. Did
they learn from the last time this happened?
Cycles? We never have cycles. Come on.
Oh, yeah, really. So you're a philosopher, thinker about wealth. Why do people want to be wealthy? Well, for the 1 in 7 of us, this is just the way we think. I don't really know why I wanted to be a millionaire. My dad wasn't a millionaire, but my grandfather was. And my grandfather was dead long before I came on the scene. And so all I saw was my dad, and he worked at a job every day, going to work back and forth. And I thought I would want to be just like him. And then I got my master's degree in business. I thought I'd go get a job, but it was a horrible recession, and nobody was hiring, and they didn't hire me. And I couldn't find a job. And so I said, well, why? I got these 30 rejections from the biggest corporations in the world. And I thought, well, who are these people who signed these letters to reject me?
Yep.
And I turned out to be, this is exactly what an entrepreneur does. When somebody tells you can't do it, you go, watch me, watch me. I'm going to show you, right? So I literally said this. I looked at all these 30 letters on my bed. And I said, one day I'll make more money than all the people who signed these letters, from General Foods, General Motors, General Electric, General Mills, generally everybody who sent me a letter. I'm going to show them that I am. And this is a classic entrepreneur trait. When somebody tells you can't do it, you eventually you go, who are these people? And I didn't know at that time. Nobody taught me that's the way entrepreneurs think. But that's the way we think. And so I said, I'm going to show them, and I'm going to bought my first property and my second and my third. I've never had a job since because no one will hire me. You know why? Because when I fill out those forms of personality forms, I'm showing up as an entrepreneur, not as an employee. So no wonder Procter & Gamble wouldn't hire me. I would have been the worst employee they would have ever hired. So, but they didn't tell me that. I had to learn from my own experience. So some of the people watching right now are employees, and they're just drives them nuts, and they hate to get up every day and have somebody tell them what to do. That's the way entrepreneurs think. I'm going to challenge you. This is an opportunity of your lifetime, this COVID stuff.
And that's the interesting point about, closet entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
In other words, they wear this mask of being a good employee, and they go through the routines. I did that for 20 odd years, right? And I got to the point I was working in large companies and was reasonably successful, but it was so frustrating because you spent more time in meetings and you spent more time just turning the handle on a machine, right? And at the end of the day, I got paid reasonably well for it, but I was not satisfied, right? And so I made that same decision, risky, fraught with uncertainty, but also because I had to do it, right? And I now do my own thing. The fact of the matter is, I'm free. I'm doing the things I want to do. And as a result of that, I now have a whole mind approach philosophy, which is just completely different from where I was previously, right? But that's a really big switch for people to take. But, the message I think now is, and, your message clearly is, this may just be that time to make that switch.
You might be forced into it. See, because you lose a job, and then what are you going to do? Go get another job? Go have another thing you hate to do that you feel insecure with? So this may be. Now, for me, I was forced into it because nobody would hire me. So I had to go and I had to buy real estate with little or no money down, which is the name of my first book, How to Buy Real Estate When You Don't Have Any Money. And that's really been the theme for the last 40 years of my career, reaching out to people who have this false belief that you need to have lots of wealth in order to create wealth. And I did this challenge that I'm famous for in America: send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me $100 and in 72 hours I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. So they sent me with an LA Times reporter to San Francisco, and they took away my wallet, and now I have nothing, zero, which is what most people think there's no way you can make money from. I was trying to prove what wealth really is. Wealth is not what most people think it is. And the banker wants cash, cash flow, collateral, credit, those 4 big C's. And if you don't have those things, then you can't succeed. And most people bought into that belief. They've ruined their credit. Oh, they'll never make any money. They don't have it. They've lost all their money. They'll never make any money. They don't have anything, so they can't create wealth. About 3/4 of the millionaires in the world started with nothing. So what's to stop you? So in San Francisco, they took away my cash, my credit, my collateral, my cash flow, and they left me with my real wealth, which is the internal C's of creativity and character and chutzpah. That's a C word. And all those C words, you look at there's a whole list of them. They're all inside you. You've got it right now, and you can turn that into real wealth, which is the wealth, I call it small capital, the small W wealth versus capital W wealth, which is inside you. So I bought 6 properties with a $100 bill because I was looking for the things that we're looking for now. I was looking for highly motivated sellers, realizing there's only maybe 1% of all the properties available for sale in any city. So the goal is, how do I find that 1%? And how do I negotiate when I have no money? So whether it's real estate or owning your own business or launching an online program, which is what I'm going to be talking about at this conference we're going to be doing here on this coming Thursday, I'm going to talk about how you go from zero to cash when you have nothing but an idea in your head. And it starts with that idea. And I'm going to challenge people at this conference to show me, make some money in 24 hours, 48 hours. People say, oh, that's impossible. You cannot do that. Well, if you have that attitude, you won't even look. So you don't start with the attitude you can't do it. You start with the attitude, well, how would I do that? Like, where would I look? I mean, would that be possible? And the answer is, of course it's possible. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. It's like for real estate, it's 1 in 100. 1 in 100 of those properties are going to be the kind of property you're looking for. If it's a real estate, if it's a business to buy, you could probably buy an existing business right now that's owned by somebody who's gotten sick, or they've got through a divorce, or the COVID-19 has really scared the hell out of them. So they go, I don't want this business anymore. Just take it off my hands. So there's just so many ways of thinking about it once you have that as an attitude.
Mm. And that's really the point, isn't it? And this is perhaps where we should pull the conversation to a close. This is actually attitudinal. It's about the internal, thoughts that you have and the desires that you go for before you start externalizing it and making it happen, right? And if you never get off that first base of understanding that there is a different way to tackle it mentally, you don't take the first step.
You don't even look. It's like it's outside your periphery, and you won't even look at it. Yep. You say, no, that's not going to work for me. But I'd rather you said to yourself, I'm sitting on a gold mine. There is a gold mine in you right now. People say, no, I'm not. Well, you have experience and knowledge and skill, things you've learned in your life, that somebody right now in Australia is looking for somebody to coach them on how to do the thing you already know how to do. And I call it your low-hanging fruit. Things you already know, a story you've already had, things that you probably undervalue. You probably don't think it's worth that. Probably thinks, nah, nobody would want that. Well, would somebody pay $100 for the 20 years you've invested to learn how to systematize and create the skill you have now? Would somebody pay you $100? You say, well, yeah, it's probably worth $100. Okay, well, go find 10,000 people in your country who want that same skill. That's $1 million. See? What I'm saying, it starts with one person that'll pay you $100 for your skill. And then it's just like, how do I find 9,999 more?
Yep.
You say, well, I don't know how to find 10,000 people. That's just almost impossible. Well, that's the reason that you're not rich, because you made the decision that that's impossible. So
they always say, isn't it? The journey starts with the first step, one step, right? And that one step is probably the most complex and difficult step to take. But
it is.
Once you take it, there's another one, and then you can start perhaps transforming the way that you think and behave and the outcomes that you achieve.
It's simple, but it's hard at the same time.
Yep.
It's not easy. It took you 20 years. See, 20 years.
Yep.
And you'd wish 10 years earlier you'd kind of taken.
Oh yeah, looking back now, I think, well, if only I'd done it earlier. But
But you didn't. And
you didn't. No. All you can do is look forward, not look back.
Exactly. I've looked back at my mistakes. So a few that are listening right now are saying, yeah, I want to learn more about how I can change my mindset. How do I go from zero to cash? How would I do that? Well, I'm going to talk a lot more about that in a program that we're having in a few days. And It's free. There's no cost to it. I guarantee you'll learn something in the time we spend together that'll change your life.
We'll put the links below. It's Thursday, the 29th of October, 2020. And if you'd like to follow up and hear more about Robert's philosophy and approach, that's the place to go to. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your thoughts. Always inspiring to hear about how you can make a difference personally, right? And that's the point. This is something that people can grasp hold of in the current climate.
That's what you do. You make a difference. That's why I love to talk to you, because I know that there'll be a handful of people who will watch just this and go, that's what I needed to hear. It was give them a kick and then get them off the cliff, get them going, and you do that. So thank you, Martin, for this opportunity to talk to your audience.
Great to talk to you. Thanks, Robert. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.